We are live, and I'll just do a very brief introduction in Portuguese. Olá, boa tarde. Isto é mais uma emissão do Admira Livre Podcast em inglês. Habituem-se àqueles que possam ter interesse e que percebam bem inglês, porque eu estou com a dificuldade em colocar as legendas. O meu convidado chama-se Mike. Ele é inglês, mas vive na Rússia, em São Petersburgo. E hoje aqui a ideia de falar com ele é perceber a percepção de um ocidental que vive na Rússia e já vivia antes desta altura, de como é que as coisas estão lá, comparar com aquilo que nós vemos nas nossas notícias de cá. É claro que é a percepção e é a opinião de uma pessoa, vale o que vale, mas espero que haja algum interesse. Welcome to my podcast, Mike. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
No, you're very welcome. Sorry for the Russian there. Actually, it was interesting listening to you speak Portuguese there, because obviously having to tune my ear to different languages, and my wife she speaks very good Spanish, and I've been to Porto.
Yes.
But I kind of understood most of what you said there. But a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the invitation to come and talk to your audience. Hello, everyone.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to start with a little bit of your background. How did you end up in Russia?
So actually, I cut my teeth streaming on Twitch. I was streaming a video game, and it was way back in 2015 that I did that. And it was probably about 3 years later that my circumstances changed. My relationship broke down, and I ended up doing some temporary jobs. And it came up. I happened to just say on a live stream that, my employer just decided to cut my contract, and I'm a free bird. So that's great for streaming. Yeah, we'll have more streams. And then an employee of the video game company reached out, like, "Oh, sorry to hear about your job, but do you want to work for us?" I was like, "Well, sure, okay." And this was Paris vacancy to begin with. I wasn't suitable for that job in particular, but the fact that I applied for it made me blip on the radar of St. Petersburg. And St. Petersburg said, it's great that you didn't get that job, because we've got one much better for you here. And it was, in fact, as an influencer manager, it was the global network of YouTubers, Twitch streamers, managing those guys, which I did for 2 years. And it took the video game to its most popular levels it had ever been in its history. And I think it's declined since I left, unfortunately. But, that is the cycle of things. But that's what brought me to Russia. And as I said, relationship had broken down, job had finished. I knew nothing about Russia, the Russian language, the culture. I came for an interview in February of that year with snow and ice everywhere. And I just decided, I could not just survive here, I could thrive here. So I'd already decided, if offered the job, I would take it. And sure enough, I was offered the job, and I took it. And that's why I'm here now, coming up for 5 years later. Obviously, since I had different jobs, but that's how I ended up here.
And you have decided not to leave after the beginning of this recent I don't know how to call it, but the war,
military operation,
the special military operation. Yes.
No, and that was a serious conversation and a serious thinking, because I preempted, right? Logically speaking, obviously, you've got the physical things going on the ground, but of course, I was thinking more the economic war that would inevitably be unleashed, that we have felt the ripples of the effects of worldwide. In fact, that's been quite shocking. So I'd calculated that. I spoke with my wife. Obviously, I didn't predict everything correctly, but at the time, initially, it was that currency, the ruble, just dropped.
Yes.
And I was thinking, right, so if things really get bad here, where are we better able to survive? And England did not fit. I did not believe that we could survive better in England. My wife has Spanish residency, so we could have gone to Spain. probably even Portugal, which I love having visited Porto. I'm still trying to convince my wife to go to Portugal. So yeah, weighing up all the options, I still felt Russia was the best place to weather any economic storm, or even if the economy did go really bad, like Soviet times, like previous shocks Russia has had. I felt that given my previous life of living off the land, of growing food and building houses and all that sort, that Russia being the largest country on earth, even if politically, like people talk about Russia and like FSB, KGB,
Yeah.
crackdown on people. This is the best country to get lost in. So if I need to lose the government, there's just a forest out there. Good luck finding me.
It's actually huge. Yes, the very low population density. Most of the population are concentrated in only
Certainly.
few parts
Yeah.
of the territory.
Where,
Do
yeah.
you speak Russian already?
Очень чуть-чуть. Как 4 года ребенок. So like a 4-year-old child, I would say. That's how long I've been here. I'm working on it. I'm pushing myself harder as well. My wife speaks English,
Mhm.
so I'm quite sheltered.
Okay.
And I've been trying to go out, even visiting my expat friend who's from North Carolina in America. He just happens to live like 20 minutes down the road from me.
Mhm.
He's married to a Russian wife, but she only speaks Russian, so they only speak Russian at home. So that's good practice for me as well. Someone who can fill in my vocabulary when I
Yes.
run out of it. So yeah, I'm trying my best, but it's still not. It's still not good.
What is how is it that you live? Do you have any special status, or do you have like a Russian passport, or have you?
No, no. So my status when I first came, and as all the people who've emailed me wondering how they can come to Russia, I would advise, if possible, as I did, to come as a highly qualified foreign specialist. This grants you a lot of privileges, including salary and minimum salary, particularly in the IT sector. But that will last for the term of your employment or the contract, which is probably 2 years or thereabouts. From there, I've got temporary residency, soon to be permanent residency. For now, I'm hesitating regarding Russian citizenship, uh, partly because foreign citizens can't buy any property, movable or immovable, so house or car,
Okay, yeah,
and
yeah,
I certainly can't sell it
yeah,
because of unfriendly countries.
yeah.
So there are limitations on that, and there's some other technicalities as well, from what I understand, regarding dual citizenship and so on. I'm not sure, and I need to clarify if you're required to renounce your previous ones to gain
Or you can
Russian.
have double citizenship, or
Yeah, someone was telling me contradictory information to what I believed, so I need to investigate further.
okay,
Something like, if you're a Russian citizen, you can have as many citizenships as you like. However, if you're a foreign citizen gaining Russian citizenship, he claimed you have to renounce your original, and I'm not sure that's true.
okay. Because it feels like that if you become a Russian citizen, it's like a one-way ticket, isn't it?
That might be why. If what he said is true, that might be why it's viewed that way. I know, just anecdotally, I was recalling an American who had got Russian citizenship and he'd renounced his American citizenship. And I thought that was because of tax, worldwide tax in the
Yeah,
US,
yeah,
but maybe it was more than that. And yet my friend that I just mentioned from North
yeah,
Carolina,
yeah.
his mother was Russian, so he was born with the dual citizenship, hence why he is different, I think. So it's a complicated one. For now, I'm not rushing into anything because, in fact, for businesses who might want to have an Englishman as their director and be based in, let's say, Armenia, just as a hypothetical situation,
Okay,
they might be willing to pay.
okay. You dive a lot into the news, and you give your perspective on it, and I find that quite the approach you make. I find it quite interesting, and concerning the narratives on both sides, they claim that they point the finger at each other, saying you are being imperialist.
Oh, yeah.
What is your take on this? Which one is
Yeah,
which one is being imperialist, or are they
the
being both?
projection from both
Yeah,
sides and
yeah,
the hypocrisy more from the West than Russia, in my perspective,
yeah.
is quite amusing to see, especially like England calling someone else that sort of thing. It's like, what?
Yes.
Yeah, you can't help but laugh, especially from certain countries. Actually, Portugal was
Yes,
quite a big
also an
one.
empire. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I mean they can't. Well, but Portugal haven't been the primary ones leveling those
No,
accusations, have they? So let's be careful
no,
with
no.
that.
It's okay. Like I said, Portugal is maintaining afloat. I think it's the
Right.
correct place of Portugal. Is far from being an empire. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe nowadays. And Portugal on the international arena, I haven't heard any like big news regarding Portuguese officials. We've heard a lot from Germany and we've heard a lot from France and all this, but even Spain's not done so well in keeping their head down.
No.
But Portugal has succeeded. Italy has tried, but Italy, I don't know what's happening there. It seems to be burning. Just
Yes,
across there.
Portugal is surprisingly stable.
Mm.
Surprisingly, amazingly stable. I don't know. I don't know. I think people are waiting to see what
Have you
happens.
noticed any more Russians in Portugal?
I anymore? No, I've noticed an influx of Ukrainians. That's for sure. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, well, Ukrainians is understandable,
yeah.
but I ask because I know a few gaming companies that
Hmm.
have for some reason set up in Portugal.
All right,
I'm
but
not sure
the,
what was so attractive, but they
well,
have.
I live in the I live outside from the center of Portugal is Lisbon. We have to admit
Mm.
that. I'm sure people from Porto don't like to hear
No,
this.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But well, they are the second biggest city, and I
And
live.
I'd argue in favor of Porto as well because I'm biased.
Yeah, okay, and I'm from a town with 5,000 people living near the coast,
Wow.
a tourist town. It's a lot of. It will increase to 50,000 this next 2 months.
Where
Because
do I invest? Property.
well, property is very expensive here now.
Ah,
And the people are having a hard time to find, especially new couples, new families, to find a place to live because of this high prices.
that sounds very British, very English.
I think
Yeah.
it's a problem across the countries with similar systems.
Yeah.
The tourism comes and expel the locals, because then
Yeah.
they don't have any more. It's a global competition, and the local
Get priced
wages
out.
cannot compete.
Yeah.
And so you've how do you qualify the news? Because I'm quite critical of the news.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
because of the abuse with the trigger words and this kind of fantastic.
Yeah, that's a big one. Language is huge. I'm sure you knowing at least two languages, maybe more. But I've always one of the key moments when through my experience, I'm now approaching 40 years old. So I've learned enough to know, and one of the key moments was about law, especially in England, common law,
Mhm.
which isn't taught in schools. And people don't know in education, they're not taught really the game of life, the rules of life. And one of those key indicators is language or assumption. Like a police officer says, "Can you show me your phone?" Well, yes, I can, but the response is, "Am I obliged to?"
Yes.
The assumption is you'll just show him your phone.
Yeah.
Excuse me, why should I? I'm paying attention and like, do you understand me?
Mhm.
Understand?
Yes.
No, I don't stand under you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't. People think understand means to comprehend, and
Mhm.
they feel obliged to say yes, but otherwise they're stupid. No, you can say no. I don't understand.
Mhm.
I don't understand why I should show you my phone.
Mhm.
So here's an example of where language is powerful, and it is extremely powerful. We've had words manipulated, uh, and that's a different podcast. That's a different conversation with regarding to resonance and meaning.
Mhm.
But when you look in the news, like we saw it with, should we be careful with our language again here? Again, this is how powerful language
Yeah.
is
Yes.
with the global health scare. We can't say certain words because it triggers things.
Yeah.
We saw how people died with, not of, something. And people picked up on that. That's a careful use of language. So that was one huge example that I think that opened a lot of people's eyes as to what was going on. And now we see it again with very careful use of language, sometimes completely false language, like courageous Ukrainians strategically retrograde. What was the word of retrograde? I've never heard that used before. Withdraw, retreat.
Retreat.
I know.
Yeah.
Retrograde. Retrograde is like a downgrade of technology. I perceive it as is going back to something in the past. I
think it's a failed euphemism.
Yeah, exactly. We're using euphemisms now. And then the dastardly, disgusting Russians. I can't remember the language with that either. But like the insinuation was the defeated Russians moved forward. But that means advanced.
Yes. Yeah. I know what you mean, but it reflects the Portuguese news reflect international news, and that's no wonder because most of the sources are the main international news outlets. We drink a lot from CNN.
Of course, yeah. That's understandable.
And other
repeat the party line, and the BBC is churning it out as well.
Yes,
we see it. We don't. I'm seeing, in my opinion, we're watching the death of journalism.
I agree. I 100% agree. I
mean, we've already seen it. Sorry, we've already seen it in the past 2 years. The death of actual journalism, and we're seeing the rise of independent journalism, like yourself.
Yeah. Although I do not claim to be one. I do not.
No, neither do I.
I do not dare. I do not dare to have such.
I wouldn't either. No, I'm putting my yeah. But I've been called that, like an independent journalist, iEarlGrey. No, I just laugh at idiots. It was like, I love it. How can you say that this is a retrograde? How? It's. I find it amusing because if you take it more seriously, then you're kind of getting drawn into their game, and yeah.
Yeah, but then the thing is, it's a lot of times contradictory because I see the news saying that sometimes they assume, for example, in the case of Lysychansk, that they lost. Finally, Russia has a significant victory, something like this. Right. And then afterwards, another piece that says this new position that the Ukrainians assume, it will be much more advantageous. Something like this. So always going for the better.
There's both the language and then the logic.
Yeah, and then the logic, yes.
That's amusing. And then we've already seen it with the case of I call them the neo-naughties, the naughties.
Yeah, I know you use this word. Yes,
so the naughties are well documented. Like you have like Jerusalem Post, you have big names who are like, there's a naughty problem in Ukraine. And then there's no naughty problem. Wait a minute, just literally 6 months ago you said there's a problem.
Yes, yes.
How does this work?
It's crazy. It reminds me of this novel, very, very famous novel, 1984, where
that's been repeated so much.
Yeah, like but it's true.
Yeah, 1984 was a book, not an instruction manual.
Because it's I remember when the state told the people that this is our enemy. It always has been
Eurasia,
and then next week it changes, and the new enemy.
You go back through the Internet Archives and just delete that line where you said Eurasia and change it to Oceania or whatever. Absolutely, and that is actually frightening. How we've seen that go on, and not just the rewriting of history and the changing of narrative, but then the cancellation of culture. In fact,
yes,
Lavrov has talked about Russophobia and cancel. I love the way he says it, cancel culture. Like with that interview with Stephen Rosenberg, with the BBC, that incidentally UK viewers, when I shared it, reported, and I checked it with VPN, were unable to watch. in the UK. These are the license fee payers, the people who funded this interview, were blocked from watching this interview, which seemed odd to me because I thought, hang on, here's your gladiator, your British gladiator going up against with Lavrov. But Lavrov made such powerful arguments back at Steve Rosenberg that it was obvious. I agree with the reason that they blocked it, because Lavrov highlighted, he said, Steve Rosenberg tried to say, oh, why did you go into Ukraine? It was horrible, whatever. He said, that's the problem. You cancel anything before the 24th of February.
Yeah.
You cancelled 8 years of bombardment, of breach of the Minsk agreements, of all this. That's not what you're reporting to your viewers. You're just going from the 24th of February, where you can claim that just Putin just got it in his head.
Yeah.
He was just going to do something and it was horrendous and evil. And you don't report and you don't give that context to it. To which Steve Rosenberg replied along the lines of, hey, I'm the interviewer. I'm asking the questions here.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the specific question Lavrov asked him was, in 2014, Ukraine underwent a coup, the Euromaidan.
Yes.
In Russia, we call it a coup. They overthrew the democratically elected government. What do you call it in England? And that's what Steve Rosenberg replied. Hey, I'm the interviewer.
Okay.
I asked the question.
Okay. Yes. I don't recall that exactly moment, but I've been watching all the interviews that Lavrov gives.
That said it all for me. That was the whole interview, just condensed into that question by Lavrov, and it was wonderful. He did it again with Blinken. Blinken said, Russia, stop blocking the grain.
Yeah.
Ukraine's not your country. You can't act like you own it. So he said, give us back our foreign reserves and our money. Stop acting like it's yours and that Russia is your country. Oh, Lavrov, you're my hero, man.
But it doesn't take... I know. It's a lot. The jungle of information can be very complicated if you don't have the tools to go through it. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the political and the society environment in Russia, concerning allegations from the West that it is a brutal dictatorship, and dissent gets suppressed right away, and there are some videos that people show where they raise this little paper with some words, and the police comes right away and takes them. And what is your perception on this, living there?
Yeah, and remember, this happened very early on, didn't it?
So
this
yes.
In like the week afterwards, there was a lot of these videos going around.
Yeah,
and from what I can gather, these videos were correct, true. They weren't faked. From what I understand, they weren't staged, and it did indeed take place. I thought about this because obviously I saw the Western spin on it, and I thought about it because I know from my understanding, research, and reading about Vladimir Putin, and we've seen it from him recently, that he is a lawyer, and we just talked about language. Language is paramount in a court and to a lawyer.
Yes.
They will not use the wrong word, certainly not in a court, because a judge could pick up on that one word, and it has a legal definition and can have serious consequences.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think anyone who's dealt with a court will agree with that. So my thinking was, Vladimir Putin was very specific that this is a special military operation. He has never, I don't think he will, I hope not, declared war on Ukraine. What we're seeing is not a war on Ukraine, as Scott Ritter has gone into great depths to analyze. And as he highlights and explains, this is most definitely not a war that Russia is waging. It would look way different. It would look far more like the US approach of obliterating.
Obliterating everything. Yes.
Yeah. And people will argue, but Russia is doing that. Well, it might look that way in the photo, sure, but you have to understand it on the ground. You have to talk to Russell Texas Bentley to get more, Eva K. Bartlett, even Patrick Lancaster as well, who will actually show you on the ground. So we'll put that to one side for a moment.
Yeah.
The reason this was important to me and what I saw in, particularly in St. Petersburg, there maybe have been some stuff from Moscow and the Red Square, but I was here in St. Petersburg, is I realized that, of course, and that journalist as well you saw on it wasn't Pervy Canal, but one of the Russian...
this editor journalist, yes.
Yes. Now, what was her crime? Her crime was calling it a war. Now, if Putin is there calling it a military operation, but everyone else in the country is calling it a war, well, now we have a problem. What is it? What are you doing? One person is one thing, but if all your citizens and everyone agrees that it is a war, well, now we have like consensus that it is war. But if it's war, then it's legally codified and it's defined and it has ramifications and implications, certainly on the international level. So again, you could say, oh, I'm arguing in favor of cracking down, but the law was very clear on it. Specifically on that.
Let me ask you then maybe differently. Concerning other matters, any other matter, do people have free speech? Can they criticize the government, for example?
Here in Russia, I can tell you that a man has a penis and a woman has a vagina. I have no fear of any comeback whatsoever. I can say that in full comfort. Now, I'd say that happily in the UK as well, but I might risk some consequences, but it wouldn't stop me saying it. I can criticize Putin, as many do, fewer now, bizarrely, as they've realized how much the West truly hates Russia, as Putin was telling them for so many years, and they're starting to realize that now. And they literally see it when they go to the shops, of all the shops that have claimed to have left, but really you can see they've mothballed and they've still got all their stock on the shelves.
Okay.
Very strange.
I want you to tell me a little bit more then about that as well.
Yeah, I'll go into that in a bit. But it's become very apparent and evident. And when I first arrived in Russia, I was a novelty. Why would an Englishman come to Russia? That's outrageous. We all want to go to England. We want to go to the US and all this and live a better life. And I was telling them then, from 2018 onwards, guys, you've got it great here. Look no further than Russia. And I get it. I understand if you've lived all your life in a country, you can't see the merits per se. And I'm probably guilty of that with the UK as well. I spent all my life there, and then I come here and I think it's better and risk it. But yeah, I was telling them, have some pride in your country and appreciate what you've got, your free healthcare and the quality of the free healthcare as well. And then if you want to go private, how much less it is to what you'd pay in England and the US, and the contributions you have to make on your paycheck. In Russia, income tax is 13%. Just 13.
That's the maximum rate
that's
for
income tax. If you're self-employed, it is 6%.
Okay. So yeah, that's much lower than the
much lower. I know firsthand because of having helped these companies move to Portugal. It is baffling. I'm like, guys, why are you moving to Portugal? Like, financially, this makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, employers have to pay some social contributions on your behalf.
Yes.
Like in Russia as well, on your behalf. That you don't pay that. Like in England, you have tax, then you have national insurance, and it's very similar across Europe. I know with Finland, Germany, and all sorts. So deducted from your wages is not just income tax; it's another. So the employee ends up with a fraction. Whereas in Russia, it's 13%. The employer pays your social contribution to the government. So for the employer, it is a calculation and factor of the salary when they pay it. Another part of the highly qualified foreign specialist thing that I talked about. So you have a government dictated minimum salary of 80,000 rubles a month. At the time, that was, I'm just going to use 100 rubles for £1.
Yes.
That was about £800 at the time, which was actually less than minimum wage, or roughly around minimum wage at the time. Now that's a lot more. And different issues and different stuff we're going into. But there you see there's a huge difference, financially speaking, with regards to the conditions there. So again, this was another argument to me that, guys, for the amount of hours that you work, everyone says in my comments regarding prices, but it's all relative. Yes, it is. For many people, most people, there's a website I would recommend to your viewers called numbeo.com, numbeo.com, where you can go and check different cities around the world. It's cool, just out of curiosity, and see the relative expense, like even average wages.
Okay.
As well. So I think the average wage, certainly when I last looked, was around $250 at old exchange rates for Russians in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
Again, specifically St. Petersburg, not Moscow.
Is that acceptable for living there?
Yeah, so that at the time equated to roughly 25,000 rubles a month. I'd say that's probably gone up to 30,000. But a suburban train driver can expect to earn around 37 to 47,000 rubles a month. A police officer was somewhere between 30 to 60,000 rubles a month. So that gives you a rough idea.
Okay.
Like a checkout in a local supermarket, again between 30 and 40,000 rubles a month.
Okay.
And you can get by on that, and yet I've just said that a highly qualified foreign specialist in the IT sector, the minimum the government stated you could pay was 80,000 rubles.
Yes.
So I already knew coming here I was on double most of everyone else. So even though my friends would say, "Wait, you're only working for like 800 euros a month," I was like, "Yeah, but the buying power is double that, so I can pay my rent, and then I've got more, and that's how it worked out." So yeah, there's this is why my perspective is distorted by winning the lottery of life with my passport, then my situation of being in the IT sector and having elevated wages. So my personal perspective is not the usual Russian one. So there is some merit to the comments, like when I say fuel is only 51 rubles per liter.
Yes.
Yes, that is cheap to me, having come from the UK. That is cheap to me now, given my salary is roughly double that of the average Russian, let's say, in those fairly normal jobs that you can expect most people to have. So yeah, that's a bit thing. But this idea that someone quoted like the average across Russia and stuff, and it's very difficult because it's very regional. Given Moscow, given St. Petersburg, the 50 rubles a liter is considered very high in Russia. When you go out to Siberia and up north, of course, the fuel is much lower. And then your argument of it's all relative kind of does stick. Like wages won't be as high either, but it doesn't really hold too much across. It's so much variation on such a vast country.
This subject started on civil liberties, but then
no
problem. But just
let's wind back on civil liberties.
Civil liberties,
with protests.
Yeah, protests,
freedom of speech,
like because apart from the whole thing of the war and the international thing, people that live in a country, they have thoughts about their government, their politicians, and so they must be able. It's acceptable for us that they must be able
one of
to.
The hallmarks of democracy must be your ability. Yeah. So I came across one comment that actually I can't remember where it was, whether it was Twitter or YouTube. Someone was saying, all independent journalists or whatever are shut down by Russia or jailed. And someone said, well, can you show me the case numbers or the cases? List them. Because actually, Julian Assange is one of the biggest cases of hypocrisy you can come across right now. That's huge. Now, people might say Navalny. Navalny is the failed Zelensky of Russia.
Yes.
Really, in truth, no one in Russia would have voted him in for president. They can see right through him, and he was always a puppet and always of the West and always will be, in my opinion, and embroiled in embezzlement, if you believe the Russian government. So people often resort to Navalny, but that doesn't really work. That journalist who put up that sign, she got away with just a 20,000 ruble fine, I think, for holding up that sign. She chose to run away to Germany, where she got a job, and then the Ukrainians protested and got her fired.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Die Welt, I think it was, or something, or whatever channel, German channel, hired her, saying, "Oh wow, this is brilliant. You stood up for democracy in Russia." The Ukrainians were the one, like, "How dare you hire a Russian?" And they fired her. So wow.
But
So no, I don't believe there's any truth there. The organizations that are generally viewed as like foreign agents or whatever, they are indeed owned by outside entities. The Moscow Times is in fact owned by a Finnish company, and they
okay.
freely publish and operate. They give Russian news in English with the Western twist to it.
Okay.
I read them, and generally, like you've just said, it parrots CNN.
Yes.
But in
Yeah.
Russia, and yet there they are still. They're called the Moscow Times. They're operating, I think, free of any legal ramifications. I'm not sure if they are listed as a foreign agent media organization. Maybe they are, but they still send me emails, and I still go on their website and check it out. So I don't see evidence to support the West's claims of this Soviet style, or even China, do we
Yes.
dare say
Yeah.
Chinese style, of shutting down dissenting voices. Absolutely not. No. And
Okay.
I can freely go on the street and I can freely say to someone in my broken 4-year-old Russian that maybe I don't like Putin, and I wouldn't feel afraid of being arrested, maybe.
Being visited by the FSB.
Yeah, or a blacked out Volga or Lada parked outside watching me.
That's
Yeah,
this image
those
from
days
the
are
Cold
over.
War.
Yeah,
Images from the Cold War. Yes.
yeah.
And so, how about what is your judgment on, for example, things more close to you, like local politicians, city mayors, and this kind of political level?
That was hilarious. I'm having to think my mind back because it was. This might actually undermine my previous argument. So there was an election that came up. It was a while ago, and it was hilarious. There was a candidate. Let's say a candidate maybe the government didn't want installed. So, for whatever reason possible, 3 other candidates joined this election race with exactly the same name.
But they have like parties
Let's say
that they
Ivan
represent.
Ivanovich was his name of this candidate of this party, let's say. And then 3 other Ivan Ivanoviches.
Like to confuse people, to spread.
Yeah, on the ballot.
On the ballot, okay.
Ivan Ivanovich. Which one is it? Is it one of 3? Oh, I was like, oh wow.
It reminds me of some parties we have in Portugal. Of one party we have in Portugal with the hammer and the sickle, and that captures some votes from people who can't read, who want to vote the Portuguese Communist Party.
Clever. Yes, see, so it's not just Russian; it is democracy.
No, this is not. That's not a very serious case.
No, that's funny.
I believe, and that's actually funny. Yes.
This was an amusing case. So it was democracy, but I would say it's Russian democracy, where, and this is what I enjoy about Russia, and probably something that scares the West, is like they'll always make the rules or follow the rules in the way that benefits them, and then if the rules don't benefit them, they'll just change the rules. It's like Boris Johnson's been a great example of,
yeah, Boris.
Wait a minute, I don't like the rules, let me change the rules. I was like, how Russian of you, Boris. It's quite impressive.
Well, sometimes I have the feeling that the whole European Union is going towards the Soviet Union, but
more so, and it's the world in everything has flipped over the wrong way. In my
they like the free market is sacred, so let's make all these rules in the market.
Regulate the hell out of it.
Yeah. Suddenly they act like this,
Yeah.
So it's a bit strange for me to see, and I haven't told you this enough, but I am a member. I am politicized. I am actively politicized here in Portugal. And I'm a communist. I'm a member of the Communist Party, and it has a whole different meaning from the Russian Communist Party.
And yet, it's worth noting the Communist Party is the second largest party in Russia.
It's still okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, this was the thing. So with Navalny, we said about him in the West, he was the opposition leader. Do you remember that line?
Yes,
leader of the opposition.
Yes, like the strong man of the opposition.
Yep.
Yes.
So in England, I don't know about Portuguese political system, but the English system, you have that right now. It's the Conservatives, the Tories. So Boris Johnson was. And then opposite him was the second largest party, Labour. With Sir Keir Starmer, who is leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
So if you want to tell me that Navalny is the leader of the Russian opposition, what you're actually saying is Navalny is the leader of the communists.
Yeah, okay. That he represents the second most voted bloc.
Yeah, the second largest party, therefore leader of the opposition, which is the communists. So are you trying to say that Russia should be voting for Navalny, ergo vis-a-vis the communists? You want communism back in Russia, do you? We've been there before and it didn't work out very well. So I'll stick with Putin. Thanks.
Not for them. I hope you don't judge me for my political views.
No, I certainly don't. No, it's fine.
But you know that it has just a very brief history, and it has the Communist Party of Portugal has a rather important role on the 70s, 1974 revolution.
Well, I have to actually say I'm very grateful to communist Russia for the relics that are left over in their law regarding employment, because enshrined, I won't go into details, it would take forever, but in general, workers have far more rights protected, enshrined in laws of the Russian Federation regarding maternity rights, regarding being fired or whatever. When a company goes bankrupt in Russia, the first people that must be paid by law are the employees. Not in England. No way. It's the creditors, it's the banks, it's whatever. It's everyone. And then come the employees right at the bottom. In Russia, no, you will pay the first one. And if you don't, the CEO of the company that's prison time.
Okay.
There's not messing around. There's no going off to the Canary Islands or escaping to the US. No, you're going to jail.
No special status.
No way. And it's so defined and codified. And I guess that's a relic of the communist era, but in particular the collapse, I think, where workers went without wages and there was real suffering because of it. And I think that's many aspects and systems such as street cleaning and all this stuff. A lot of the public systems are still relics of those that communist era and the laws that were left over, I believe.
And it takes me to the next question, which is everyone had the feeling that with all these sanctions from the West, Russia would go back to 1990.
Yep.
And that's apparently, at least for what I can see, it did not happen. What do you see? What changes do you see? Is it collapsing? Is it on the verge of collapse?
Prices are going down for the most part, certainly for domestic products in the shops. Western brands, I've noticed today, dog food was still slightly higher. That's being produced now in Russia, that I read in the news. So foreign brands still going up slightly, but the only shortage I can honestly say was that news I read about the rip-off of McDonald's then cutting French fries off because of a specific variety of potatoes that had a poor harvest last year. Which I'm not going to lose any sleep over or cry about. I never went to McDonald's, and I wouldn't go to the Vkusna i Tochka, whatever they're called now. No empty shelves that I've seen here. Conversely, I've discussed before, I've seen plenty of empty shelves in Germany and Holland now with the farmers.
With farmers,
So I'm seeing literally the opposite. Anything that's blamed on Russia, I'm seeing now in the EU or even the US on so many things. Economy-wise, though, actually, a super strong ruble was a problem. There is deflation. I think it was 0.14%
Mm-hmm.
in June. Yeah, one of the weeks of June,
Okay.
latest one. So that sounds great. When everyone's, I think Norway just reported the highest inflation since.
Okay.
They didn't use the 40-year one. We've heard in 40 years. They used a specific date, but Norway now reporting extremely high inflation. So when I say Russia's experiencing deflation, that might seem positive, but of course, economically speaking, that's not always true. They
Okay.
still have the same problem with consumer spending. They need to revitalize their economy.
Okay. Do you see, like, for example, an increase in unemployment and
No, and again, partly due to my sheltered and privileged status, I know from news and facts reported, Rostat will publish statistics that obviously there were those of Western companies that left. There was a spike in unemployment there. Those guys have again been protected by law, so many of them were simply suspended, not fired.
Mhm.
So technically still employed. That will run out at some point, and they may well become unemployed. So if there's not a spike, there may be soon. Putin has actually recognized and addressed this in recent speeches. I can't remember his exact words on the matter. It's certainly in the government's consciousness, in
Mhm.
their view, tackle. So if it's worthy of mention by Putin and in the government's field of view, then I would say it must be significant enough.
Do you, let me put it like this, do you see Russia in any aspect of society around you going like out of control negatively?
No, nothing at all. Nothing like that.
Just
No.
life just goes on and
Yeah, yeah. I'm really, really scraping my brain now to think of any particular signs that I might see of any hardship. Certainly elevated. But and even in general, I've been to India, so I'd seen plenty of hardship right there in front of me on the street, and
Mhm.
that's nothing. I've not seen anything like that in St. Petersburg in Russia. I
Okay.
can't, I
Yeah,
definitely
well, right,
can't
yeah,
speak for the whole of Russia. Yeah, St. Petersburg being pretty wealthy and developed. No, I've not seen any elevated ones. The people that I would be concerned about that have been addressed to an extent by the government would be those on fixed incomes. So those are people on pensions. Those are people um, who are on certain payments, maybe for families. There are many initiatives for families that I won't go into. The
okay.
mind-boggling compared to England, where it's pretty much have a kid and it's your own fault and you've got to pay for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
despite the welfare state idea, uh, you basically have to be unemployed to get welfare in England. So yeah, they increased pensions by 10%, increased that, which would mean a lot for a lot of people, especially as I say in the Siberian and rural areas, villages. It does also that would help in St. Petersburg, and that also covered state employees as well, quite a raft of them. So they do appear to not only be cognizant and aware of these, but also addressing them rapidly, to the point where it was stated in one news that they actually have so much surplus they're running out of things to spend it on.
Uh, yes, I've seen some things about this,
Hmm.
about the surplus and then the state of the Russian economy. Do you think that this first impact is just that? It's just the first impact, and then things might go, or it might be even become better, or how do you see the future, the near
Yeah,
future there?
that's near future. Things are improving and getting better rapidly, and actually, they're improving partly for me and also exporters because the ruble is weakening against certainly the pound. It did slightly against the dollar. The dollar's dropped a little bit recently,
Yeah.
but the exchange rate was getting roughly where the central bank said they wanted it. They're aiming for 70 rubles a dollar, around that mark. That's where they're going. So the ruble stopped strengthening so much, which was causing me pain transferring money from England to Russia. But more importantly, on the economy, the exporters as well.
Yeah.
The automotive industry is picking up slightly. now. That was down 66%, which was pretty tough.
Yeah, that's a tough number. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I know cars worldwide though. After the health scare, the secondhand car prices went through the roof anyway. So again, that's a difficult one to put in. But I'm going to say car production in Russia. Let's be specific on that one. That one took a significant hit. So yeah, that one's stabilized and improving. And recently they announced new brands or new models for the Moskvich, and they're reviving Volga and Pobeda, two other Soviet brands.
All right, yeah. Soviet brands.
Yeah.
Well, they have before only Soviet brands, because before Soviet times there were nothing like that.
Yeah, I'm just sad that they've not, a bit like McDonald's, they didn't reinvent it. So I'm sad that the Moskvich is now just a remodeled Chinese brand, a bit like they did with the Lada. I'm not going to say that's bad.
Yeah, okay.
Like the Lada was an iconic car and a massive success model on a Fiat.
Yes,
but they haven't updated and remodeled the Soviet Moskvich, which I hope, like a Nissan Figaro or a Fiat 500.
Yeah,
like I'd love to see that. I've always dreamed of these old cars being just slightly updated a bit, but kind of in essence.
I do fancy because there is a brand, I think it's UAZ, a Russian brand.
Yeah, it
was, and they have this van that is the same design. Always it kept the same design. I think it's the UAZ 452 or something like this. And I actually like that sometimes.
Is that the rounded Soviet classic van, the Bukhanka?
Yeah, the Bukhanka. Yes, that
Bukhanka.
one. Yeah.
I keep looking at it and I want to buy it because it's 4-wheel drive and it's bulletproof. I know, but I'm not sure about parking it on my drive, and I'm not sure my wife would really respect it. I've managed to convince her I can have a Lada Niva.
Yes.
I can have a Lada Niva 4-wheel drive. But that Bukhanka, I'd love it. You can get them in camper vans as well.
Yes,
all the different bodies.
All the different, yes. I think
they're so cool.
Yeah, I really, for a Portuguese, it's an impossible mission. Unless
maybe I can buy one and drive it to you.
Oh, that would be very, very nice.
Yeah, they're popular. Like they sell in England as well.
Yes, they sell. They are sold in Germany and several countries in Europe. Yeah.
I've seen a few German ones.
So for a second I lost myself going.
I got you excited with the idea.
Yeah, with the idea for UAC. Let's go to Ukraine a little bit, if you, and I don't know if you follow the military situation.
Yeah, as much as I can. Obviously, I post the daily briefings and I study those as much as I can. It's very hard to keep track geographically in your mind on a foreign country that, let's face it, I wasn't aware of, didn't pay attention to before the 24th of February. I'm not familiar with the lands, with the layout. So keeping track is very difficult, and I often watch other channels, Military Summary, like one of your previous guests, to get a far more specialized idea. I often have to refer to the maps to actually understand what this settlement means. I'm getting better now, Nikolaev and, on all this, Kharkiv up in the north. I know that Bakhmut and Kramatorsk are going to be next on the list. So, I've got some inclination now, but most of us have to admit that we didn't care. We didn't know anything before the 24th of February.
True, and the thing between Ukraine and the news, it's like people are very shocked every time, because there's a lot of news of it looks like the Russians strategically, or they accurately pinpoint nursery rooms and hospitals, schools,
good spin on that one.
Pregnant women. They have like this special, they pinpoint all these targets. I think it's and so that's concerning that. But do you think that all this support, you have been in the military previously, haven't you?
I served in the infantry many years ago.
And do you think all this Western support through it, have you gave it a thought about how it can work, like against the Russians, like for example the Ho Chi Minh Trail worked against the Americans in Vietnam, because they have constantly huge amounts of money and material and training on their back, on their
That's a good
behind the
analogy.
front. Behind the front.
Yeah, a good analogy, the Ho Chi Minh Trail. That was Vietnam backed by the might of the Soviet Union, among others. I think China as well.
Yeah, China
played
as
a
well.
massive
Yes.
part. But the key point there was also manpower. That's what could be supplied in vast numbers in a game changing. We've heard that name. That word before. Game changing way. It was just unstoppable, that flow, despite the American Air Force's attempts, even in, was it Cambodia as well? Countries.
The nearby countries.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was horrendous. So that is the key ingredient that's missing. Well, I'm not saying even just a key ingredient, because they can't even get the required quantities of these armaments and weapons out there. They scraped the barrel. They ran out of Soviet built stuff very quickly. If you were paying attention,
yes, I am.
Like, oh, suddenly they were like, UK was trying to buy up all the old Soviet stuff, and it had already been destroyed. I think the Russians are claiming at least 4,000 armored vehicles and tanks destroyed. 4,000. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, they must have scraped the Middle East as well for Iraq and Iran and all that lot, and Israel. I don't know how many. I know a lot of Soviet-built stuff went that way. They must have bought up all that stuff as well. But let's say that those M777 howitzers, they could match Russia. Well, the amount that Russia deployed in Ukraine, they could match that, and they could get that deployed. They wouldn't have the manpower.
Okay.
To do it,
but because now there are coming out recent news that say that finally the gear that the West is sending is proving effective. Concerning
the are having an impact.
Yeah. Like with the HIMARS hitting faraway targets behind the Russian lines.
Yeah, I saw in Russian news that more HIMARS ammunition had been destroyed today. They've already lost 2 HIMARS to Russian fire. They've lost at least 4 of the M777s, probably more. I'm playing it safe with those numbers. So this equipment's being destroyed pretty rapidly by Russia when it identifies where it is. Again, it's not in the numbers to make meaningful impact. It will not change the tide. It was never intended to. I don't believe, in my opinion. It's intended for the propaganda spin, just to buy that headline. Western weapons are having an impact.
Yes.
Well, the impact that I'm seeing is from the Russian missile as it hits it.
as it destroys it.
Yeah. And I've seen that video. Yeah. I've not seen, conversely, what I have seen is the French Césars, the evidence that they are shelling civilian populations in Donetsk.
Yes, and it's been more recent reports about that. And the time that I interviewed recently, also that I interviewed Russell Bentley, it was happening as well. And
it's 155 millimeter, which only NATO use. Russia doesn't use 152 unless they've captured some, which they claim they bought.
Yeah. That's what's going on with this. So
even if that's a lie, it's still hilarious.
Yeah, they're buying them at the discount.
Very much discount. 7 million euros and buying them for $120,000 each. That's brilliant.
So, have you met anyone from the front line, Russian or allied?
One of my family has come back from there. Extended family, but no, not really. I've spoken to a couple of a few Ukrainians. One of them just this weekend after I've been out drinking, which was a good conversation to have regarding. I said, "What do you think of Zelensky as president for Ukraine?" He thought he was great. He had the completely opposite opinion to me, which is important for me to hear, and to hear his reasoning. And to understand, it was very good. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that.
A couple of weeks ago, I actually interviewed an Ukrainian that lives in Portugal. But he already speaks Portuguese. He's been here for a while. But it was curious for me because his perspective was of he completely said that the Zelensky government is a corrupt one, and there is no freedom in Ukraine. That's was
And
his.
yet this guy I spoke to said Zelensky government was the best, and that in fact, if I thought Russia was free,
Mhm.
Ukraine was twice as free as Russia, in
Okay,
his opinion. Yeah.
it is. Well, what can we say? We have to.
Well, okay. Well, I did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was very keen to listen, and it was a very interesting conversation to have.
This my interview. I don't know if you have interest, but it's in Portuguese, so it will be difficult.
Yeah, it would be unless the
But
translation, but
he gave notice of one thing particularly. It said, for example, if you write on social media things against the government, that you get visited by the SBU.
I've seen other reports of that as well. I've seen people having their phone looked through by SBU, these retaliations going through Kharkiv and other places of even people just suspected
Yes.
of posting pro-Russians. I've seen testimonies from Ukrainians who committed acts against suspected pro-Russians. So unfortunately, the evidence I've seen supports that claim.
Well,
that's how it is.
There is one thing that we don't need any evidence for, is that of those political parties that became illegal by decree.
Yeah, again, that's documented.
By decree, yeah. So that's the okay. I don't. Corruption in Russia. Well, we've kind of.
There most certainly is, and there is in England as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonathan Pye, when his talk with the New York Times on their YouTube, does a wonderful piece. He's talking about how bad Putin is, and also how London was the money laundering capital of the world for Russian money. So yeah, again, the hypocrisy from the UK leveled at Russia is first of all amusing, and then also just foul, just disgusting. It's like you guys, even Boris Johnson, who's been the beneficiary, has happily taken Russian money, bribes even, and the US is not above it either. The US is also stuff.
True, but the image, it's the image from the media we have is this Russian is very dark, corrupt, still communist sometimes.
Yeah, they play on the. That's a very valid point, because I often say with the US, I think it's very convenient to fall back on the better dead than red propaganda of the 50s and the fear that everyone had, because that's still coded in.
Yes,
that was very effective.
Witch hunting, yes,
and Cuba as well. The vilification.
About British politics, well, we know that. Boris Johnson or Bojo, like someone call him,
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson. He was a very big supporter of the government of Kiev, and now he's on his way out. Do you think there might be a relation, or is it only those allegations about having someone in his cabinet accused of sexual harassment and all these stories?
Yeah, I mean, like with every story, there's always more than meets the eye, and anyone, either unless you'd been paying specific attention or you were living through the UK thing, but I think even Europeans are quite aware of all the lies that went on during the health scare, the breaches of the lockdown by leaders, their own rules. All of this has built up and now has come back to haunt Boris. The timing is what it is, but people have had enough. I don't know how much is true of other leaders like Draghi, who are facing similar issues now. Scholz, I don't think the same thing can be applied to him. I think for Boris Johnson, it's just perfect storm of all these things now. Now the economy is tanking. There's very few excuses. He congratulated himself in his resignation speech, which wasn't a resignation speech. It was how he delivered the fastest vaccine rollout, how great I am, how wonderful we are. But even that, we all know that's lies and it's all hollow. You can't even say that the UK is in what's the White House press secretary, that Jean-Pierre Claire thing, said? Like, oh, US has never been in a better place historically,
Yes.
economically speaking. It's like, you can't lie about that anymore.
Yeah.
You can try, but you can't. And
Yes.
Boris was the same. He was trying to lie. No, you can't, Boris. No, that's
But
not going to work.
But anyway, we have the light at the end of the tunnel. Liz Truss is she's gonna
Oh
solve.
yeah, our savior. Yeah, do you
Yes.
see the picture of her on a tank?
No, not that one. I haven't
Oh
seen
yeah,
her.
that's a corker. Maria Zakharova shared that one of Liz Truss, who promised to defeat Russia in a special operation. Which,
Yeah, the
that's a good
special
one,
operation
Liz.
thing.
That's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
good
yeah.
one, Liz. I like that, but I
Used
don't
it.
like the preceding bit, because we all know that England well, the army not anymore is worthy. The navy is not worthy of the title anymore. It's
Well,
sad, and I hate to say it, but it's sadly the fact, and it cannot compete to Russia. Even if Russia's equipment is technically inferior,
mhm.
it's like the T-34 was technically inferior
Inferior. Yeah, yeah,
anything, but they had
yeah.
them and they threw them at them, and it got the
Yes.
job done. It wasn't pretty, but it got the job
Well,
done.
that's for me. That's a very interesting. It's a geek discussion for people who
Sure.
like this kind of things.
Yeah.
But the T-34 was not made to go to stand by himself. It was made to incorporate in an army to work in a way, and it was perfect for the role. And so
And effective in the end.
yes, effective in the end.
At
Yes,
great cost. And there's the other thing: who can afford that cost? Right now,
Yeah.
it's Russia. It's not England.
True. People were talking about in the Western media about the military equipment of Russia. They were like having disdain. I don't know if this is the correct word. Forgive my mistakes in English. That sometimes I step on it. Because of the T-72, which is it's a rather old tank, and sometimes I think they have been seeing T-60s or T-62 tanks also on the front line, and everyone was like, "Oh, they're running out of tanks. They're putting all the junk." If you hear some noise, don't worry. I have a water pump just beside me, and so everyone was speculating that they were, but no, it's their practical use of things, and that's that. But what I wanted to go into when I started with the British politics is, what comparison can you make? Profiles and quality, if you may say, about Western politics in general, the most preeminent leaders, and the leaders in Russia. Do you think they're on the same level?
No, not intellectually. No way. No, one is very clearly a puppet reading a script, repeating lines, and another one is mentally astute, agile, and clearly fit for the role and the job and title that they've been assigned. I'm going to try and avoid Liz Truss as my punching bag versus Maria Zakharova.
Whoa, my hair.
I'm going to try and think. Blinken has lost to Lavrov on more occasions than I care to count. So the US can't seemingly field a suitable counter. Germany, not impressed. I've not really heard much from the German foreign ministry. I've heard a lot from Scholz.
Yeah, from Scholz, yeah.
And Habeck, who's the finance, I believe, finance minister. But I've not heard much from the foreign ministry. So there just doesn't seem to be. I think the other countries have wised up that there's not worth pitting against.
I mean, Joe Biden.
Oh my God! End of line, or is it end of quote? Repeat line.
That's a programming joke, isn't it? Yes, because of this is I think this is actually a more serious matter than it looks, because the West has this. This is my view, of course. I think it has this puts itself on this high ground, on this high moral ground.
Yeah.
And no matter what our politicians are, the civilized ones are the defenders of liberty and freedoms for the people. And on the Russian side, it's only savages and madmen trying to
barbarians.
Barbarians trying to take over the world. But I think if you look at it objectively, if you look at speeches that they give, the way that they argue, Yeah, I think you can draw a
That's the
different.
thing.
Mhm.
Like, even if you'd say anything Lavrov or Zakharova says is all evil propaganda, sure. Okay. Okay, let's say it is. But you can see, as I've said, the mental agility, the comebacks that they have, the thought that goes into it, the reasoning. As I gave that example of Blinken saying, stop treating the grain in Ukraine as your
Yeah,
own. Well, give us back our foreign reserves then. Is that
yeah,
yeah, I got you there.
yeah,
How do you come back with that? When Lavrov said we call it a coup in 2014, what do you call it in England?
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, okay, yeah,
Boom, checkmate, done.
yeah, yeah, done.
And people have often compared that Russia and Putin are playing 5D chess, and Blinken and Biden are playing fucking tiddlywinks. Like, I don't even know what they're playing. Well, Biden doesn't know what they're playing, but Boris Johnson as well making all that he
Yes,
never came across as a astute leader, whereas Putin can tell you how many cubic meters of gas was transported through Ukraine
yeah,
in 2018 at
yeah,
what price,
yeah.
and he can do that. I have no idea how. He did that at the Economic Forum. Unfortunately, Russia Insight, the YouTube channel,
Hmm.
was very quickly deleted
Okay.
because it had such interviews from Putin where he's that astute and obviously does his homework. And I can't say that about the Western leaders I've seen. I can't say Liz Truss did her homework when she said Rostov on Don in
Yeah.
Russia would never be recognized by the UK.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's yeah. It's very. It has been downgraded too much. The quality
Yeah.
of this Western
Stark
politics.
difference
Yes.
in IQ and,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know.
many ways.
Okay, that would lead us into a whole different analysis.
You could, yeah.
Yeah, but what I wanted to talk to you about now is the more recent fresh news from this farmers' protests in Germany
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah.
and in Holland, because now it's also in Germany. It started in Holland,
I did read about Germany. Yeah.
and because I simply can't make any sense of the environmental argument, although I'm open to whoever wants to
Sure.
defend
Yeah.
it. But when we have a crisis of food prices increasing on our hands, and this kind of governments, like the Dutch government and the German government, they're normally held in high regard
Yeah.
concerning their competence. And so doing
Exactly. Yeah. Confidence, intelligence, and
yes,
yeah,
and
ability.
management and ability to manage. Yes, so it's do you have any opinion on this one?
Yeah. Well, Zakharova just gave an opinion, actually, literally before we started, on the EU's so-called green policies, given Austria's new coal-fired power stations that they've just fired up,
Yeah,
given them that. So complete, again, once more, hypocrisy, we're seeing it.
yeah,
The Dutch or Holland, I really, I'm I try and avoid the conspiracy theorists of, the globalists, the Great Reset, and all this stuff. But
yeah,
again, this seems and appears to be evidence that they are literally destroying food production intentionally. As you've just said, this is the worst timing
yeah,
possible
yeah,
to exacerbate this situation.
yeah,
And sadly, the ripple effect is on the poorest and children.
yeah,
What is
yeah,
it? 150 million children are supposed to go hungry at the best projections this autumn, this fall
yes,
coming.
yes,
Well, the UN claims to be concerned about that, but I don't see much concern from anyone else. If you mention it, it's Russia should do something about the grain, which, according to Lavrov, accounts for 1% of the world's supply of grain
yeah,
is in Ukraine. 1%. But you're having it doesn't make sense.
yeah,
Then the Dutch then shutting down production. These fires that were reported in certainly the US, then it was in England as well.
yeah,
Meat factories and all this stuff. Nicole Kidman now eating bugs on TV,
yeah,
promoting eating this bug protein. Uh, all really odd. And when it gets to, like you just said, the Germans and the Dutch are generally held in high regard. So when they do something that stupid, you
Yeah,
think, wait a minute,
yeah. What's going on here? Yes.
that's not a mistake. That's not oh my goodness, what have we done? Come on now.
Yeah. So I think that's very strange. Another thing that I find strange and is that now there is this whole talk about the gas supply to Germany. And so, because it was this reducing of the flow in Nord
Yeah.
Stream 1, and because of all this, all about these things about this maintenance, and these parts are going to Canada and not making way back because of sanctions and all these things. But now, today, I think today, the gas will be shut or has been shut.
It has been, yeah.
Shut.
It shut down from the
for
11th to the 21st or 22nd, yeah.
which is actually normal. I think they do it
Yeah.
once a year
Yeah.
in the summertime. But the news that I went through today, they are like, we don't know if they're gonna ever turn it on again. There's like all this hysteria that they're gonna maybe they are conspiring and the gas is not going to be
I
back.
wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't blame them if they extended it because, again, I'm petty, and it's lucky that I'm not in charge because as soon as all these sanctions were put on Russia, I'd have screwed the taps off. No gas for you. Bye bye, and watch your economy collapse. And I'm not. Again, first of all, I'm not of that 5D chess playing intelligence. And again, luckily, I'm not in charge. But that was the same comment many people have made on my YouTube channel. They don't know why Putin was still supplying the gas as per the contracts. Just cut the contract, screw you all. And the thing is, with the Siemens turbine and that, it was made out to be this just conundrum of, oh no, the sanctions, the holy gospel of sanctions says we can't. But the solution was just to reroute it through another country. Well, come on. Well, Russians know how to do that with money. I mean, we were doing it with Armenia and Kazakhstan when the sanctions hit. We will funnel more money through there. That's like the first thing you think. Oh, if I can't do it directly, I'll just do it another way.
Yeah.
So why did it take a month for Germany and Canada to work that out?
Yeah.
Is that really the cultural difference? Because I'm from the West, and even I thought of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Maybe because I'm Russified, but yeah. So therefore, again, another level of incompetence that you think was actually intentional to exacerbate that situation for the deindustrialization of Germany, which is what we're seeing. Which is,
yes,
I'm now of the opinion is intentional under the pretext of Russia did it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't believe that anymore. Russia certainly didn't intentionally inflict that. But for the idea that Russia might be playing on something, maybe I'm very willing to entertain that idea that they reduce the flow further than maybe they were required to. Others have argued that safety of the equipment and the turbines dictates that they have to operate within these safety regulations. So for others to say that Putin's doing intentionally, whatever, okay, there's cases to be made. So this idea of this turbine needs to be returned. Well, sure, that takes time. Is it by sea? I presume so. I'm thinking it's a big bit of kit that maybe you don't want to fly to Germany. You'll take it by sea. That takes time. The scheduled maintenance. It's to a layman, someone who doesn't work in the gas industry or have any understanding. If Russia were to say, due to the stress placed on the remaining equipment that we've been using to put that reduced flow through, we will have to extend to also maintain that more so than usual. I'd go, I get that. Yeah, I could understand the stress in place and the extra checks necessary.
But for me, it's a thing that they are afraid.
My point is, it might not be true. Like, they could be lying, but I'd buy it.
Yeah, they're true. But if you are afraid of that, and what I am surprised of is that why don't you ask yourself, where do your fear come from?
Yeah,
because you are acting hostile towards someone, and then you are afraid that they retaliate in some manner.
That beautiful hypocrisy of like we've just launched a massive economic war against Russia with sanctions, and then we claim they've weaponized gas and stuff. What did you expect?
It doesn't seem planned at all by the West. at all.
No, it's very
That's all.
reactive. I've said that quite a lot. The
That's all.
EU seem to. I don't believe it is all reactive.
Mhm.
I do give some credibility to now some of these conspiracy theorists who, on the previous 2 years, began as conspiracy theorists and then ended up just being right the whole time.
Yeah.
So now we're coming through where it seems that the conspiracy theorists are still winning in things that they've said, and that the powers that be seem to want to bring about this deindustrialization of Germany. You bring down the economic powerhouse of Europe, then the EU sinks as well. There's claims that is the US intention, is sink the
Yep.
EU.
I've read about that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say that that's true, but I could believe that maybe. But I think America is going to get pulled down with the EU, and how America doesn't see that yet, seemingly, is beyond me.
Well, one thing that it seems clear to me is that the USA certainly doesn't have any intention to see good relations between Europe and Russia. That is what to me is the most.
That's the worst thing that could
Yeah,
happen is for the EU and Russia to get along.
Yeah, for them. I don't want. For me,